Okay, here we go with part three. I might be able to finish on this one. We'll see. So we're talking about the difference. Well, first of all, we're talking about marketing and IT and what marketing needs to know to work with IT. And we're in the section on practical advice on how to work with your IT guys. And I said that some IT guys are perfectionists and they want to get everything perfect, and other guys just slap things together and tell you it's good enough. And you got to find out which type you're dealing with. Now, the project developer, whether that's in IT or whether that's in marketing, will often have a tendency to over specify things. We want you to do things this way. And that's not a good idea all the time, because sometimes you don't know that there is a simpler way. And by over specifying, you're precluding simpler solutions that would be just as good. And my grandfather used to tell me this story about a fellow he knew who wanted to have a piece of metal cut to a certain length. I think it was 2 inches. But when he sent it off to the machine shop, he wrote 2.0000 inches. Well, the guys at the machine shop said, my goodness, this has to be correct to the 10,000th of an inch. So they cut it to the 10,000th of an inch and charged him a huge amount of money, because it's hard to do that. And he didn't need it anywhere near that precise. So don't over specify. There may be things that you say, well, I think it ought to be this way, but here's the goal. Make sure you're bringing IT in and talking about the goal and what it is you're trying to accomplish, so that when you say, oh, I want this thing to happen, they can say, well, okay, but we could do it easier like this. And listen and find out whether there might be a better way to do that. Sometimes it's best to do the simple thing first and learn from it. For example, sometimes it is best to just create the WordPress blog and see what happens and then build from there. All right. IT does not like half-baked ideas. Now, when I say they don't like half-baked ideas, what I mean is they don't want you to come to them with a half-baked idea and say, build this. Having a half-baked idea, bringing them in and having them help you bake it is a good thing. So when you have a half-baked idea, do your best to tie it all together and figure out what's going on, but then bring them in and get their input. IT does not like emergency projects because they have emergencies of their own. Servers do weird things. All of a sudden, there's a new security update. All of a sudden, there's a patch. All of a sudden, there's some new threat from some virus or something that they have to deal with. And these things are going on all the time. And you come in and say, I need this Friday. It's just really not respectful. Don't do that. Respect their process and how they do things. Sometimes they want to put things through a queue. Okay, work with the queue. Another thing that drives them crazy is, even though you think of the IT guys as, look, you're just over there doing this stuff, they also have a sense of what drives the business and the fact that the business has to make money. They realize that, and they don't want to have to do all kinds of work for one promotion you're going to send out one time and get one order. They want to do, if they're going to put a whole lot of work into something, they want it to be something that's going to be meaningful to the company. So respect that. Don't make them do a huge pile of work for some little tiny project that really isn't going to move the needle much. And don't give them a whole bunch of non-critical requirements. Don't tell them it has to be this way when it doesn't really have to be that way. Figure out in your list of requirements, figure out the must-haves, the nice-to-haves, and make sure that it's clear which ones are which. Now, they want requirements first. They're not trying to tell you to go away. They're not just trying to be difficult. They need requirements because they're trying to build something. Remember the bicycle. What you can do is you can do mock-ups of every type of page. Now, those mock-ups could just be drawings on a piece of paper. They could be sketches on a whiteboard. They could be, if you have somebody with some design skills, you could try to put something together on a page yourself. But showing them those things, the reason it's important to do that is because when you wrote your your requirements document, you may not have included internal search. But then when you draw your mock-up of the page, you have a little search box there. And the IT guy looks at it and goes, hey, wait a minute, what's this? So doing the mock-up is another way to help IT see what the scope of the project is. Now, don't change the project in the middle. I know that there's this new idea called agile programming where they're supposed to be happy about project changes in the middle. That's a bunch of bunk. Nobody's happy with changes in the middle of the project. Think of the Think of the stereotypical situation of the wife saying, can you move the chair over here? Oh, no, not that. Move it over here. No, how about over here? Nobody likes to be treated that way. Don't change the project in the middle if you can avoid it. Or if you think that there might be changes, tell them up front that there might be a change and why. They can be reasonable people too. Just work with them and talk with them and respect their process and what they're trying to do. IT wants to know what they're trying to build and why. They want to have a fixed target. So try to make that as clear as you can. Get them involved early for all the reasons that I've said. First of all, they might have ideas that you hadn't thought of. They might have ways to make this work smoother that you didn't think of. Make sure that you talk to them about ways that you might change this project, things that might be different later on. See if you can break things up into little pieces. Do this little piece, let's get this going. Do this other little piece, let's get that going. Kate Mayfield said, if you don't get your IT involved right at the beginning, or it's your fault if later on they're trying to block you, she's exactly right. Don't let that happen. Make sure you bring them in early, respect their process, and talk to them. Now, here's some nuts and bolts. Fill out a bare bones checklist. I'll show you one in a minute. IT reviews the checklist, meets with marketing, and you talk about it. Try to get some clarification. Marketing provides some wireframes. Here's what we think it's going to look like. Here's the way we want it to flow. IT says, here's what we think you want, and here's how we think we're going to do it. And then either you buy in or you go back to step two. But you go through that process until everybody's agreed that this is what we're doing and this is how we're going to go forward. Now, here's a sample bare bones checklist. An elevator pitch is a thing that people say in the United States, which means you're on the elevator with the boss and you have between floors 1 and 10 to explain what it is you're trying to do, why he should approve it. All right, 2 sentences on what's important and why. Tell them that. Respect them. They want to know that what they're doing is important. The scope of the project. Is this a big project or a little project? Is this 1 million visitors or 100 visitors? Is this $1 million or $100? Is this something that's going to use half your server resources or something that isn't going to use hardly any resources at all? They need to know. Is this a one-off thing? You're going to do it once and that's it? Or is this something you're going to do over and over? It's going to be a larger effort. There are going to be a lot of components. What do you hope to get out of this project? When does it have to be done? And then if there's some other driver, like, the CEO's wife really wants this, or some other thing like that, tell them that there's another factor involved than just, making money. All right. DIY, that stands for do it yourself, can be a bad idea. Some people think, gee, I'm trying to get IT to build this blog for me. And they tell me it's going to take a month. And I know that I can go on WordPress.com and I can build a blog in 5 minutes. That's true, you can. But will the blog on WordPress.com pull in your customer data? Will the posts that you put on a blog in WordPress.com fit into your CMS? Will existing subscribers be able to look up their own accounts? What about the emails that you collect? Will that work together with your email service provider? Are you creating a completely new workflow? Are you creating a totally different database? See, there's all kinds of things wrong with DIY that can really mess things up. Also, there can be serious security risks in some of these other programs that don't fit in with your system. Now, on the other hand, sometimes if you're doing a one-off project, it doesn't have to integrate with anything else. It doesn't have to use your existing customer records. It doesn't have to integrate with your email service provider. In those cases, fine. Go ahead and play around with WordPress for a while. It also, playing around with WordPress or Drupal or whatever the heck it is, might give you an idea about what you really want and how it's really going to be done. It might help you to write a good requirements document. And there are some situations where you really should bypass IT. You don't need to use them. You can go ahead and do it yourself. Looks like I'm running out of time on number 3 here. Sorry about that. So sometimes you need an IT reality check, especially with security. Sometimes IT throws up their hands, this is a security problem, this and that. And sometimes that's just a ploy because they don't want to do it. So that's another reason why the guy in marketing needs to know what's going on with the technology so that they can't snow you. I think I'm